Success in negotiating real estate deals can be really hard to come by. What makes a good negotiator in real estate? In this video, I'm going to share key characteristics of the best real estate negotiators and 3 steps you can take to be more like them. So first, really good preparation. Now, this is the case for all negotiators, but particularly in real estate, the more prepared you are, the better your outcomes are going to be. So, what does preparation look like? First, really knowing the market, having a good sense of relevant norms, both in terms of how people negotiate, around price points, around what to expect in a particular market. So, for example, the kind of market you might find in Cambridge, Massachusetts is really different from what you'll find in Detroit or San Diego or Washington. Secondly, and this may sound obvious, but from my experience coaching people in real estate, it isn't. And it's really knowing what you want. So what that means, practically speaking, is if you know you're hoping to maybe move 3 or 4 or 5 months down the road, you should actually start your process early. Identify a real estate agent and start looking at properties even remotely, right? Even online. Because the more you get a sense of what's out there, the more you're going to know what you like, what you don't like, and what a dream feels like, and what a nightmare feels like. Related to this, right, is understanding the timing of purchasing. Understandably, right, there are times when you just got a new job, right, and you need to move, and you may not have a lot of control over when you're making the sale or when you're making the purchase. But I think for most of us, we have some control over the time of our move. In fact, even if you get a new job that's forcing you to move from Austin to Chicago, you could rent for a few months. In fact, renting for a few months has some advantages because you get a sense of neighborhoods and you get a sense of kind of what you like and what you don't like in a city. So when it comes to timing in real estate, for many markets, there's a lot more properties on the market in the spring and the fall and fewer in the winter and the summer. And so to the degree you can time your sale or your purchase strategically, that makes a lot of sense. The reality, right, is the more prepared we can be on market, on what we like, on what's available in a city, and on timing, the better place we're going to be successful in the negotiation. Now, my second tip, and I think this might be counterintuitive, at least in real estate, is building relationships. The reason why I think it's counterintuitive is many people think that a real estate sale or purchase is a one-off situation, right? So it's not like going to business with somebody where you want to have a really good relationship. It's kind of like, I make the sale, I make the purchase, I have nothing to do with them. But I want to suggest that that's actually not true. And in fact, there are a number of people with whom you should try really hard to build a good relationship. The first is with your own agent. So your own agent is the person who's going to be helping you, and their interests are only partially aligned with yours. Yes, of course, they're being hired to help you, but the quicker they can make the sale or the purchase, the better it is for them. And so in that sense, your interests might not be perfectly aligned with theirs, because if you're a buyer, for example, you want to make sure you get the right place. And if you're a seller, you want to make sure you get the right price. Some of the ways I think about building a good relationship with my agent is, first of all, trying to get someone who comes on recommendation. So maybe a friend of a friend or the agent of a friend, because already you have a little bit of history there. I can tell you from my own experience, I've purchased 2 properties for myself over the past 15 years. And in both cases, I would say that the reason why I got the unit I did at the price that I did was because I had built a very good relationship with my agent. In the case of one, the agent actually got me into the unit before it went on the market. That actually allowed me to make an offer for this property that exploded 1 hour before the open house. In the second case, the agent also got me access into this property before it went on the market. And with the good advice of this agent, I was actually able to craft a deal making it such that the property never went on the market. And because this was a very hot market, keeping the property off the market prevented a bidding war. But the second entity with whom you want to, if you can, create a good relationship is with the seller or with the buyer. But I'm going to use the seller as an example, right? If I'm a buyer, the more that I can understand the interests of the seller, the more likely it is I'm going to be able to come up with a creative deal that actually meets interests that are beyond just money. And truth of the matter is, most sellers, they want to get as much money as they can for the property, but they may care about other things. It might not be just about money. Let me share a story about my own home purchase that helped me build a relationship with the seller. Thanks to my good relationship with my agent, I had learned that the seller had built in a beautiful island in the kitchen that had a complete undivided piece of slate. Now, I saw this. It wasn't particularly meaningful to me, but I learned from my agent that the seller was very proud of this. And so when I met the seller before the purchase or offer had been made, I said to the seller, you know, one of the things I love about this property is that slate island, and particularly that it's a solid piece of slate. This little piece made the seller think I was the most observant and skillful person in the universe. And I think it really made this negotiation easier. In another situation, one of my friends, who is a negotiation professor like me, was purchasing a house that had a mother-in-law apartment. And one of the things that they had learned is that the reason why the seller was selling is that the mother-in-law had actually passed away. So as part of the offer, my friend sent a letter to the seller saying how much they valued the mother-in-law apartment, particularly because their elderly mother was going to come and live in the apartment and also help raise their young family. And the seller ends up reporting that this was the reason why, in a competitive bidding situation, they chose my friend over competing offers, even though the competing offers offered more money. Last thing you want to be thinking about is what value adds might you be able to offer, or might the buyer or seller on the other side be able to offer that would create value outside of simply the dollar transaction. So what might these look like? So for example, when I purchased my place, the seller was in a somewhat tumultuous period of their life. And so I basically said to them, I'm not in any rush here. You tell me what works for you. I can make this work anytime between 4 weeks and 6 months. And that was extremely valuable for the seller. At other times, waiving an inspection might be really valuable for a seller. Sometimes there may be some value to create it around a particular skill or offering that a buyer or seller can offer to the other. So as an example, one of my friends, when they were purchasing their house, had learned that the seller was an interior decorator. And this friend of mine intended to spend thousands of dollars hiring an interior decorator to make sure that the place looked great. But what they did instead is said to the seller, we would love for you to be our interior decorator. Now, it turns out this was extremely valuable to the seller because the seller had a great pride in the place she was selling. And so feeling that she had some ongoing impact or touch in this place she was leaving after many years of living there was extremely valuable to her. She could provide these services at basically a very low cost and was extremely valuable to the buyer. So, to be the best possible negotiator you could be in real estate transactions, follow these 3 steps. First, really good preparation. The more prepared you are, the more you know about the market, what your interests are, what you like, the timing, the better it'll be for you. Second, do not think of this as a one-off transaction. Invest in building relationships with all, the agents on both sides and the seller or buyer. Third, think about what are the value-creating possibilities that might enable each side to do something for the other that would be high value for them and low cost to the other. So to continue your learning, watch this next video, which is how do I negotiate when the other side has more power? And before you leave, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and ring the bell so you never miss new content. Okay, click, click, keep watching.